Hello and welcome to the first edition of the Big Screen Banter podcast. I'm your host, Ben Griffin. Today I am joined by a great friend and a fellow collaborator of mine, Aidan Ragels.
Hello.
Aidan, I wanted to ask you. So I like to begin this with just a little discussion with my guests, and then just to so the audience can get to know them a little bit more. What are
Mhm.
your four favorite films, would you say?
My four favorite films. I gotta think back to like my letterboxed. So I mean, number one top film of all time has to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I
Okay.
mean, it's I mean, there's some flaws in it, but the vibe of it is just amazing. I love it, and as problematic as the guy is, love me some Quentin Tarantino.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I'd probably have to go into the horror realm of things. I'd have to say The Thing,
Okay. Okay.
original 1982, John Carpenter. It's it's a beautiful film, and the way it allows tension to be built is beautiful. Um,
Yes.
then I would have to go to another feel good kind of movie, and I'd have to say Dazed and Confused.
Okay. Okay.
Linklater is like the king of those movies. Yeah, ever since I saw it the first time, I was like, this is amazing. Um, and then I kind of have to go Matt Reeves' Batman.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's like one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever
Yeah.
seen that reached into like a very popular audience.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a beautiful film.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a fun addition to the Batman catalog of films
Mhm.
that we already got, and whatever people can say, it's definitely up there for a contender for best Batman film.
Oh yeah.
Um. Um. My next question is what exactly interests you about films?
Okay. Well, I mean, I am an actor.
Yes.
So obviously, one of the big things that I noticed first is the portrayal of the characters, how well the characters are written, how well they're acted.
Yeah.
So that's a real big part of watching a movie with like me. I will especially talk about the characters a lot. Um, but I feel like something that goes underappreciated, especially with people who focus on the acting, is the cinematography of a film.
Mhm.
Um, and like I mentioned with Batman, I mean, I'm I'm a huge lover of nice, vibrant visuals. I like when a film makes you feel dirty just with the shot
Yeah.
that it's portraying. And I feel like a film is 10 times more effective if it can make you feel feelings just from the shot alone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a wonderful answer. Um, yeah, I mean, you kind of answered the third question I got within that, and it was how you fell in love with films, and I guess through cinematography is kind of
Mhm.
what I was understanding is how you fell in love with films. Of course, besides all the acting stuff with you
Yeah.
being an aspiring actor and all that stuff, it's good to hear that there's appreciation for cinematography.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been watching movies for as long as I can remember. I was never really like an outdoorsy kid.
Yeah,
So I could spend my time, it was either A, playing video games or B, watching movies. And movies dominated a lot of that time. Yeah, I've loved movies for since as long as I
right.
can remember. So
Well, we're in the same boat there. We're in the same boat there. Well, I guess let's jump right in. I did want to give a warning before we start going. This movie does tackle some serious topics that may be sensitive to some. So just a heads up as we go into this discussion is we will be. I'm going to try and do it as light as possible, but we will be
sure.
talking about some heavy issues. Um, So, as always, I like to kind of begin with our backstories of how we originally discovered this film. For me, I'll start off. It was 2022, and I was dating somebody, and they had heard about this film, I think through TikTok. And And I had, at that time I was going to school to be a EMT and a firefighter, and so I didn't have much free time. I was pretty much in a lighter version of med school,
Mhm.
and I was like, well, yeah, when it comes out on streaming, we'll see it. And then I put it off and didn't think much about it. And I want to say it came to Netflix, and so we watched it. And I remember she was so scared we had to watch it in two different settings. But I fell in love with it. I fell in love with
Mhm.
all the gross, like and but also all the deep messaging in it is
Yeah.
another thing that I felt so deeply in love with for this. And it wasn't until a few years later that I found out Zach Cregger wrote
Mhm.
and directed this. And I had my dad was a Whitest Kids fan. I was a little young. I think
Yeah.
when Whitest Kids was really big, I was maybe like I was elementary age, younger elementary age, and so I had seen a couple skits here. You've seen the Gallon of PCP. You've seen Blue Hair Timmy. You've seen all these
Yeah.
fun skits for Whitest Kids, and but it didn't really click to me that the Zach Cregger who carries around a bottle of PCP, who dressed up as Abe Lincoln and told John Wilkes Booth that he fucked up, that the same guy would later on and direct a movie about a rabid incest baby. It was just it was such a crazy and like surreal feeling to discover that. And now with the success of Weapons, being a big hit this year, as a Whitest Kids fan, I don't know him, but
Yeah.
you almost can't help but feel proud for the guy that he's on that, he's back up to the household name that he was when he was in Whitest Kids, and I mean, after Whitest Kids, he of course did his circulation of sitcoms, so he was never truly out of the spotlight.
Mhm.
But I mean, man, just to see him get back to the top, it's absolutely just incredible, and I can't help but feel so happy for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Zach Cregger, he's very, very I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. He's a great director, and I mean, he chooses projects to work on and produce like it's amazing. That's something I would aspire to be like, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Projects. But to get on to my story, I mean, like you, I was dating somebody at the time, and I'd really wanted to go see the movie because I'm a huge horror fan, and I'd heard good things probably on TikTok, and so I'd convinced her. I was like, oh, let's go see this movie, and she was like, okay, it looks interesting, we'll go see it. And it started, and I mean, we'll get into it, but the first, I don't know, probably 40, what is it, 50 minutes of the movie
About yeah,
is
that
just,
that
it pulls you in, man, and it's so good. And actually, this is a little less funny, but the girl that I was seeing, she ended up having a panic attack
oh
halfway through, and I
yeah.
felt so bad. So afterwards, I paid for a ticket and all that kind of stuff, and but we finished the movie. We watched all the way through. It was so good, so good.
Yes.
And then yeah, like you said, Weapons is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Weapons blew me away, but back to the panic attack thing.
Mhm.
So I had watched this in 2022, once it came to streaming. I hadn't picked it up, and I had remembered it being really good.
Mhm.
And then it was this year. I was like, whatever, I'll watch it, and I watched it, and I forgot just how much this film churns and churns. I mean, it just you're sitting there, and about you get to the halfway point, and you almost have to pause and just and remind yourself that it's a movie. And it's a few things. Like I got that feeling with Michael Haneke's Funny Games. Um, I've gotten that feelings with a couple other films, but I remember Barbarian truly had me like I had to breathe. Like I almost kind of got that same feeling with Weapons, where I'm like I don't have to throw up, but like that anxiety is just building within you,
Mhm.
and everything pays out so great. And I know I'll talk about it here. Some complaints people have with the film, but to me, I don't see it. I think this film is just lovely,
Mhm.
lovely. Given the context of what happens. But yeah, so we open on a rainy house to find out it is double booked.
Mhm.
through Airbnb and then another home staying website. And Tess goes up to the door and knocks. And then that's where we meet our other character, Keith. Right off the get-go, I love how Keith gives an uneasy feeling, right away. And to which, as I was doing my research for this film, I found out Zach Cregger was inspired by The Gift of Fear, which was written after the O.J. Simpson trials. I can't remember. I don't want to say this wrong. I think it was by an FBI agent. The Gift of Fear is a book about trusting your intuition and how to avoid danger. I didn't write down the exact things Keith exhibits, but Keith exhibits these signs in an almost manipulative way. And I love right off the get-go, and I think Bill Skarsgård helps with that because Bill Skarsgård is already an unnaturally weird looking, you just get like this weird feeling just looking at Bill Skarsgård. And so yeah, I think knowing this, it adds to it that he exhibits these manipulative kind of like, when he's like, when she's out there and he's like, well, come in. And you're kind of sitting there like, there's no way you're getting me. And I'm a 6'1", 250-pound guy. You're not getting me to walk into a house, and so, and then she follows, and so that's where you're sitting there. And I think that's where this anxiety starts to build, like, oh shit. Cause you hear these horror stories in real life and horror mirrors reality. And so I think right off the get-go, that was an amazing opening, and there's more to it, but what did you think about, that immediate, probably like first 5-10 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, immediately the movie does a great job. Well, okay. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because I'd like to mention, I don't want to make this about weapons or anything, but I don't know if you caught it, but at the beginning, Tess gets a call or like a text.
I've seen this on, yes.
Yeah, from a Marcus, and I don't know, rewatching it last night in preparation for this. I was like, whoa. I was like, Marcus.
Yeah, I actually saw that on TikTok actually a week ago, like about a week or two ago. And I was like, that's an interesting theory. I don't know. I don't know if Cregger planned it.
Sure.
I'm sure he's been writing both of these. They do take place in the same universe, he announced. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe that is a good point. Chat clip that, I guess. But yeah, no, it's probably it's a stunning opening. It's not quite a cold opening, but I mean it definitely builds off right off the get-go, and then you get the title card of that reddish, bluish, purplish, which I love the color of the title card for Barbarian.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great. The entire, it does such a great job of building suspense right from the get-go. I mean, she's on this street where you can't really see any other house. There's no lights. And all there is the light of the house that she's supposed to go into. And then, she goes up there and she types in the passcode and she doesn't see the key. And then she's like panicking or whatever. And then she sees a man inside the house. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes. I grew up with 2 sisters and basically a single mother. And so I spent my entire life with my mom telling my sisters to be careful and be wary of random men and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, yeah, it's really effective. And you're like, girl, don't go in that house. But
yes,
yeah, I mean, like you said, the title crawl is amazing. I mean, it really, I'd like to say it distinguishes Zach Cregger from a lot of different other filmmakers right now. It shows that not only is he insanely good at what he does, he's also doing it in a very, very artistic way that conveys his love and passion for the project.
Yes, he saw Jordan Peele, a fellow sketch comedian, win an Oscar for Get Out, and he's like, I want to do that. I'm not sure, but no, it's that point of when you have positive female role models in your life and that you truly care about, this opening is even more damning, I would say. You're just like, oh, please God. And the unfortunate part is, and we'll get into it as we go later, stuff like this happens in real life,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's a horrible, horrible fact. And so that's right off the get go. You're like, oh no. But uh, and I wanted to. I just made a quick side note, and then we'll get back to the story. Is I loved Cregger's use of the long, drawn out shots.
Mhm.
Um, and as somebody who's interested in directing and cinematography and just filmmaking in general, um, the long drawn out shots build the suspense.
Mhm.
When you see the whole frame, when it pans into that house and you can see the living room, the kitchen, and this mysterious dark hallway, it
Yeah.
builds suspense. You're expecting something, when you do a normal talk scene, there's the rule of 180.
Mhm.
But in a horror movie, when you can see when they're talking and they're standing near the hallway and you can see that hallway faded in the background, in a horror movie, your mind's running 1,000 miles.
Oh
You're
yeah.
like, what the fuck's gonna come running out of this hallway at it, And then when nothing happens,
Mhm.
but that anxiety churns and churns, and that's where we get at the beginning, where you had mentioned the panic attacks.
Yeah.
Is Zach Cregger is great at building suspense when nothing is gonna happen, and
Oh yeah.
so it gives you that false, kind of like that false hope, and then when the stuff does happen, it just hits just that much harder.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so the talk between Tess and Keith builds a false relationship between the two, which I noted not just helps the audience build interest for both of them. As you learn, Keith is like semi-famous, and so is Tess. She's in Detroit to get on for a documentary, and it helps us not just build feelings for them throughout, but it also helps us feel for Keith when, as we get there, he meets his inevitable demise. Um, but Keith also exhibited a lot of like performative male energy, just like kind of how he's like, he's just so know-it-all every time she talks, and not like kind of like the cocky know-it-all, but kind of
Yeah.
like the oh yeah, I know this, yeah,
Yeah.
and which adds to the possible manipulation
Mhm.
that we feel before knowing the true story, which goes back to that Gift of Fear book. And once you kind of know about this gift of fear, it kind of changes the whole movie for you.
Mhm.
It's not just to me, in my experience, I love picking into the minute details. It's not just a a film about a double booking Airbnb. They get trapped in the basement by a monster. Why? Let's find out. And it's not just that. When you find out the meaning behind this is OJ Simpson. No, but when you find out that the meaning behind this is to point out these traits that often go overlooked, it
Mhm.
really adds to it. I mean,
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I hear you. I was unfamiliar with the connection there. I did not know that. I'll have to do some research and rewatch the movie. I mean, it sounds, um, yeah, it sounds like it really does change up some certain things, and especially with the way you view Keith as a character. Yeah, I mean, that's I didn't hear about that, so.
no, yeah, and I was doing some research both like via Google searches, and then I was also kind of watching some YouTube breakdowns throughout my day yesterday. That way I didn't look like a complete jackass. And so what I did was I was watching this one, and I think it was like a promo interview Zach Cregger did, and he had him, I think it was Bill Skarsgård, and then the actress Ford Tess on stage. And he
Mhm.
was talking about how he drew inspiration from The Gift of Fear.
Mhm.
After this is done, I'll try and find that and send it to you.
Okay.
Because that breakdown was a really good one, and maybe I'll even link it in the description because that was a really good breakdown.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, learning about the gift of fear, and then as I said, I didn't write down all the traits that he exhibited, but in the video he breaks it down, and just a wonderful, and you sit there and you're like, oh shit, Keith gives off this, Tess gives off some of them, and
Mhm.
AJ, as shitty of a character as he is, love Justin Long though,
Oh, I love him.
he gives off a lot of it.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna skip a little bit. So the toxin helped add to both Tess and Keith's background, so we feel for them and understand them as characters. Then we get to the scene where Tess is sleeping in her bed and the door begins to open in the middle of the night, which to me is up there for the creepiest moment. Just how long it is drawn out, and you hear like that female whisper, which
Mhm.
then it's just so simple. I mean, a door opens, faded whisper, Tess
Mhm.
wakes up, Tess goes and sees what it is. Simple.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's one of the most effective parts of the movies.
Mhm.
And then um especially with Keith having the night terrors, you see Keith shaking, rattling in his bed, on the couch. I mean, and I made a huge note that this film is phenomenal at building tension,
Mhm.
and the soundtrack for it helps. That Necro by A001, where it's like that. I used it for the Instagram promo, where it's that
Mhm. Oh,
noise. It's just that ringing in your damn head. It's like Eraserhead when they got that damn buzzing thing just ringing in your head. You hear it for the rest of your life.
oh yeah.
Um, what do you think about the tension this film draws, and even early on? I mean,
Mhm.
it's so amazing.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I can't. I feel like you really hit all the bases there. I mean, it's obvious that um, everything is used to build the tension, not
Yeah,
only the acting or the cinematography, but yeah, like you said, the soundtrack. I mean, they and I guess the use of psychology and just the way some of the characters are being portrayed and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing, and it's truly a masterclass of um of film, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah, absolutely. Um, that morning, we see Tess leave the house, and we finally see the neighborhood. As you mentioned in the beginning, you don't see anything. You see the house, and that's it. Now we finally see the neighborhood, and it is just as horrible as as we can imagine. And Keith kind of tells her, like, I'm not like this neighborhood's a rough area, and come in, it's a bad neighborhood. But we don't see the neighborhood,
Mm,
which then adds to, is he just lying to get a female in the house? And uh we could not see anything during the night, and indeed it is absolutely not the side of town you want to be caught on.
mhm.
uh Eventually we find Tess, who meets with Catherine, and as the two walk out, Catherine asks where Tess is staying. When Tess gives her answer, Catherine is like visually shocked. Like,
Yeah.
she exhibits, like, she's like, oh, and she warns Tess how bad of an area that is, and Catherine tells her to be careful. um this builds a question in the audience of what could possibly be the danger on that side of town. We see how run down it is, but now a local is like, you're staying over there, like what house is over, and
Yeah.
it just builds that question of, so what do we need to be fearing of, and what do you think about that? I mean, I think that's a very big moment in the film.
Yeah, I mean, especially I'm gonna focus more on a rewatch side of things because I mean, yeah, you hit all the great indicators there where you're like, oh, what is there? But I mean, on a rewatch, you're genuinely questioning like if what you see later on in the film is like told through like urban legends, or
Yeah,
even if it's like just a known thing that there's something there that other people know about that most people out of town wouldn't. You know what I mean? And I think that
yeah,
that is debunked later on in the film with the cops, but it's still on a rewatch. Your mind isn't fresh on what happens in the film. You're like, what is going on there? Do
yeah.
other people know about this? You know what I mean? So,
Well,
um,
we'll get to the cops in a little bit, because I wrote a note down.
yeah.
But no, yeah, it's absolutely, and it builds that horror from the locals know more, which seems like a very simple thing to say,
Mm,
but how I like to describe it is, when you drive, and you're not on the interstate, but you're on the highway, and you go, like, let's say you go to some big city, and you're driving through the highway. You're destined to drive through a few small towns.
mhm,
And every time I drive through these small towns, and it's called Sonder. I think about how everybody has a life there. But then I also start thinking, and I'm like, oh, every life is precious. But then I start thinking everybody has a life there, and life is life is horrifying.
Mhm.
What are some of these dark secrets that this little town of bumfuck South Dakota are hiding?
Yeah.
And so I think that's one part that I really liked from this is it's like the locals know something that we don't.
Oh yeah.
Tess and the audience are now damned or destined, whatever you want to call it, to find it out.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a great question to now have in the audience head is of that, and it now impends danger
Mhm.
because now we're like, okay, Keith might not be the danger, but
Mhm.
what is the danger? We suspected
Yeah.
Keith, but what's the danger now?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, uh, I, I think, and as much as you said it, I still think in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, Keith could be dangerous. You know what I mean?
Like,
While I was rewatching it last night, I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she had seen the movie too, but she didn't really remember a whole lot from it. And I mean, she knew that Keith. Well, later on, Keith isn't necessarily the danger, but she's like, what if this was his house and he just booked the Airbnb, and
yeah,
then it just, and it's like, and she said that still after you're questioning, well, what is there? You know what I mean? Maybe it's not him, but yeah, I think there's a lot of questions in your mind as you're watching the film, and yeah, I completely agree with you.
absolutely. So as Tess returns back to the Airbnb, a homeless man screams at her, telling her not to go in the house. Now, I'm no genius here, but I don't think yelling at a girl and running full speed is going to convince her of a damn thing. I don't. I think. Excuse me, miss. Hey, even if she hits with the no, I don't got change.
Yeah, yeah.
Running full speed and just
Oh
girl.
man.
I'm like, first of all, if I'm a grown woman, you call me little girl, fuck you.
Yeah.
But and just I'm like, I'm no genius here, but
Yeah.
I think we could have found a better way to execute that.
Oh man.
But yeah, so Tess is obviously startled by this, as one should be.
Mhm.
And she begins to panic and packs her bags and calls 911. And now where I mentioned kind of with the cops and also with 911. I
Mhm.
wrote this down because it was a Reddit comment and I thought it was hilarious. I
Okay.
don't know who commented it, so I'm not going to give credit, but it's not my joke. They wanted to note that the most realistic part of this movie was just how little of a fuck 911 and the police gave a shit. Like
Oh
they did not care. And I think I sat there, I'm like, yeah, that's the most realistic part of this movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what did you think about like that suspenseful return to the house with
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
homeless man, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, probably not the best way to get the attention of a woman.
No.
Uh I think you're watching it, and at this point you obviously know that that man's probably not just an average crackhead. You know what I mean? He probably does know something more than Tess knows. So you're kind of like, oh, but you should wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it also is. I mean, once you think about it a little bit more in depth, it is a little funny. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
just in the way that you're like you could have done this way better, dude.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I
Let's
mean?
pull our head out of our ass a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like you said, a great way to show, and it especially foreshadows that yeah, the cops will not care later on in the movie. You know what I mean? And that they don't take things as seriously as they should, especially in these more poor, rundown areas.
Yeah, and I think, just off the top of my head, and I should have noted this, but just the way every other house is ran down, destroyed, beaten, moldy, or falling
Mm.
apart. And this one is so beautifully kept. It just, to me, I just felt unease. Something about that. It's not quite like those liminal photos where you see, but it's just something about it just didn't. It just builds that feeling of something's not right here.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So yeah, while she's in the house and after 911 pretty much is like, nobody can come out to your area, just calm down, ma'am. She cools herself down in the bathroom, but she notices there's no tissue paper left.
Mhm.
She searches around the whole house before it takes her down to the basement. But the door closes and locks her down in the basement, which she suddenly realizes she left her phone upstairs.
Mhm.
Now, the general consensus of a horror movie is do not go down to the basement.
Oh yeah.
And now we're down in the basement. Not just down in the basement, we're locked in the basement with no phone.
Yeah.
So we kind of three strikes and we're out on this situation. You might as well already put her on the kill count.
Oh yeah.
No, but so I think this is now the turning point of the story where we now are going to start to find out what the true evil is.
Mhm.
As she tries to escape, she finds like a little rope, and like one would, begins to tug on it, which reveals a secret door. And as she opens it, reveals nothing but a long hallway of darkness, just eternal blackness for all we know. Until she finds a mirror and props it up and shines the light down, to which she so after she walks down the long hallway, she finds a nasty room with a blood-stained bed, a shit bucket, and a camera aiming at the bed.
Yeah.
Disgusting as hell. But I'm going to ask you, what did you think about seeing that room, like your first initial time?
Well, I'll tell you what it reminded me of, especially the lighting. It reminded me of Saw.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I was uh, immediately um I was of the belief, where I was like, well, obviously people are being captured or are being held here or whatever. And then I think when I first saw it, I was initially thinking like, oh, do they rent this place out and then kidnap these people and then have them stay
yeah,
here and do all these things to them? And I feel like that's just a common thought process in that situation, when you're, especially with this story.
yeah, yeah. Well, a little bit back to the beginning.
Mhm.
I didn't watch a single trailer. I didn't watch a single clip. I hadn't even heard of Barbarian until my girlfriend at the time told me about
Yeah.
Barbarian. And and so I didn't know where any of this was going to go. And I remember seeing just that room, and on my first initial watch, on my second, and now even on my third, your gut just drops,
Hmm.
especially when you see that bloody handprint that off memory kind of looks like a child's handprint. Your stomach just drops and you're like, oh my God. And so the question's there. What is this? You
Hmm.
don't want to see what it is, but you also kind of want to see what it is, and it's like a car crash. You want to take your eyes off of it, but you can't.
Yeah.
And so this, as I said, is now the turning point in our story where Keith suddenly arrives home. And now when you see Keith, you're thinking one of two things. One, Keith is a murderer.
Mhm.
Two, what's going on?
Mhm.
And it doesn't help that Keith immediately tries to get her to go down into the basement again with him. And so, yeah, Keith is just a walking red flag.
Yeah.
But so Keith suddenly arrives home and frees Tess from the basement, which Tess urges the two to leave, but Keith is persistent on checking everything out.
Mhm.
Reluctantly to Tess, the two begin to investigate, which after a while, Tess calls for Keith because he goes down. She's kind of at like the top of the stairs or ish area.
Mhm.
Um, Tess calls for Keith, but hears nothing. And so she makes her way back down to the basement.
Mhm.
She now has her phone with a flashlight, and as she explores the long hallway, she finds another door which reveals stairs leading to somewhere. Tess once again calls out for Keith, but does not respond. And I wanted to take a note that I love how tense this
Oh yeah.
last probably 10-15 minutes of the first act is. We now see that nasty room, and Keith is down there, but all of a sudden stops responding. And now, like, you're just like, oh my God, let it end, let it end. You know, what do you think about how tense this is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a stark contrast because you see this nicely built home, and then you go down into the basement, and it's sort of a little unfinished. And then she gets to that hallway with the secret room. And while very creepy, it's still in like a almost like man-made type of way. But then she discovers the other secret door, and there is just, it's almost like it's cave walls.
Yeah.
The only thing that is really like built is the wooden stairs as she's walking down. And then she comes across cages, and it's just this whole thing where you're like, oh, this is way deeper than I thought. You know what I mean?
It literally looks like a medieval torture chamber down there. Like it's nuts. But as Tess walks down into there, and she sees those cages, and she sees, you know, this, as you said, this almost man-made tunnel, in a jump scare that scared me the first time I watched it. We see Keith crawling on his hands and knees, and he's like, go, go, go. And in one of the scariest moments in the film, and not necessarily scary, but also one of like the most like, ugh, what the fuck? We see this naked monster run out of the darkness, grab Keith, and begin smashing his skull into the walls as we watch it get goopier and bloodier and drippier, where all of a sudden we see just like this shattered, flattened pancake of Keith and this monster screaming in Tess's face before we cut to black, and that is the finish of Act 1 in Tess and Keith's story. What do you think about that? It's so batshit how abruptly it ends. What do you think?
It really is. I mean, it's an obvious callback to their earlier conversation, you know, where Tess is like, well, women have to be more careful about these sort of situations where men are just generally kind of waltz right in, and they don't really worry what happens because they haven't needed to in their life. And I think that really shows you the ineptitude of Keith, because what does he do? He just marches in. And what does that get him? I mean, he gets his face bashed into the cave wall. You know what I mean?
It gets him added to the kill count is all
exactly, exactly. And I mean, as we'll see later, I know I'm jumping ahead of myself, but as we see later, Tess is more careful about the situation, and that allows her to survive that initial situation. You know what I mean? And I think that's just, it's just a wonderful callback.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly an abrupt end, but that keeps the questions high, because we just saw Keith get killed brutally, and now we're like, well, what's going to happen to Tess? Because the monster, like, Tess is here, the monster's here, and it's screaming in her face. We cut to black. Obviously, now we jump to a man who we learn is named AJ, driving, singing along to a song. I didn't know what song, not that it matters much. Before getting a phone,
Sorry, it's Ricky Tikki Tavi. It's a great song.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I didn't write it down. Yeah, Ricky Tikki Tavi. He's having the time of his life. Before getting a phone call and hearing news of not necessarily his show getting canceled, but that he might be kicked off the pilot if it does get picked up, because he's getting hit with a sexual assault allegation. To which on the phone I noted, AJ victim blames her. On there, like, AJ just is coming off immediately as the biggest asshole. And so he heads back home, which just so happens to be the Airbnb. Now we got two topics we can talk about here. I'm going to start on that. First of all, how big of a jerk do you think this guy is? Because I hate him.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, it's especially recently in history, you hear about all these stories about these men in powerful positions, and especially Hollywood, and they take advantage of their female co-stars or the actors in their film, or whatever it is, and it's sadly it's a situation that is very realistic in nature. But yeah, it immediately makes you dislike this guy.
Yeah.
Especially, I believe his first words after being told it is "what a fucking bitch."
Yep.
That's
Yep. Yeah.
that's horrible. Why would you say that?
No. No, and I told my sister last night because she doesn't like horror, so she was bouncing between my room and her room, and
Mhm.
and we were watching it, and I remember talking to her after I finished because she's like, "Oh, fuck that guy, he's a pig," and all. And which yes, she's right,
Yeah.
and I remember just telling her, I was like, how I know Zach Cregger is good? You know how good of a writer you got to be to make us hate Justin Long?
Oh yeah.
Like you got to be such a good writer for me to sit back and be like, man, I fucking hate you, and it's
Yeah.
Justin Long. Like oh my god. But
Uh,
and then that leads us to his one of his homes, of course,
mm,
being that Airbnb, which now makes you think, oh my god, like is Justin Long the monster? Like and ask more questions. But once he gets inside, he notices all the stuff from Keith and Tess is left behind.
mhm,
Um, but after a phone call to that office place, as we see where he picks up his keys, the lady is like, no, we have nobody on record staying in this house. Nobody rented it out,
mhm.
which is odd. We just watched two people double book this house, but they have no record of it being rented out. What did that make you? To me, that made me like, that built another question,
Mm.
and this movie does so great at building questions and answering them, if I may also add that. Um, I was just like, I'm like, what's going on? I was like, we just watched this place get double booked, and now they're saying there's no record of a booking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's definitely an odd thing. It does make you think. I always kind of took it as the like she says, the last booking was weeks ago. I always took it that their stuff has been there for weeks. They were the last occupants.
Mhm.
And then that makes me think. Well, actually, on a rewatch, it immediately made me think like, wouldn't there be somebody who would be like, "Yo, this woman Tess, who's supposed to be part of my documentary, and I'm supposed to meet with her and all this kind of stuff. She hasn't showed up for anything." You know?
Yeah, or like, don't you have like a cleaning crew come in after every,
Oh yeah.
So that's where I'm like, well, what the heck is going on here?
Mhm.
Um, but then AJ gets a phone call from a friend, and immediately drops the F slur, uh,
Mhm.
which the friend is played by the director and writer Zach Cregger.
Oh yeah.
Um, and while out there, the friends like, so let me ask, what's really going on with this? And AJ, not Justin Long, AJ does admit to raping her, but playing it off as, I'm persistent.
Yeah.
It's what a fucking douche. And yeah, and after the long night out, comes home and drunkenly calls her, and apologizes to her. And I just wanted to make another note that this guy is a huge piece of shit. He's so hateable. But yeah, I like the club scene, or the bar scene, I should say,
Mhm.
because he does admit to the raping, which makes us then hate this guy.
Mhm.
Um, the next morning, he goes down into the basement to confront the squatters, and he's like, I got a gun, da 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 da, and goes to the basement to confronts the squatters. And then in a hilarious sequence, he finds the same room that Tess found,
Mhm.
But instead of panic like Tess, he grabs a tape measure. Well, he actually goes on Google and he starts,
Yeah.
typing in, asking, and then he starts measuring the room to add to his square footage, which is the most Airbnb host thing I have ever seen in my life. And this, of course, will all eventually lead to him finding Tess.
Mhm.
Uh, what did you think? I love how this film blends the serious and the horrific, but also has just that sprinkle of comedy in,
Mhm.
showing, of course, Zach Cregger's roots.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's uh, I watching it, it's almost like he implements these scenes in there so meticulously that are just so funny, yet it's put in a place of just absolute, like, you're terrified for the character. You're like,
Yeah,
don't go down there. And it's almost like you want to laugh, but you feel like you don't have time. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it is truly, it's truly great because like you said, it shows his roots of his comedic background, and genuinely just a really funny guy Zach
Yeah.
Cregger is. But yeah, like I said, it's almost like you can't laugh because you're so terrified for the character.
Oh, 100%. And as you mentioned, the humor comes to an end pretty fucking quick because we get a massive time jump and we see like a almost like bright pastel colored Wes Anderson-esque shot
Hmm.
of a beautiful neighborhood,
Oh yeah.
but it has the same house, and then the houses around it are all beautiful looking, and um, we follow a mysterious man who gives off quite the heebie-jeebies. I mean, immediately you know something's wrong with this guy, and we watch him follow a woman home. I mean, he goes to a grocery store. He buys like diapers and then plastic sheets. Just a bunch of weird shit. And then he follows a woman home, where he puts on like a what is it? A plumber costume.
Hmm.
And knocks on her door and says, "I'm just checking the area." Da 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 da. And he goes in and unlocks the window.
Hmm.
As he arrives back home, he talks with a neighbor about how the neighborhood is going to hell, which all horrifically leads to a disturbing ending where we watch this man walk into the basement before hearing a faint woman's scream.
Hmm.
I wanted to note that this is a um, super hard sequence to watch.
Oh yeah.
It's believe it or not, just the realism of it is probably the most disturbing part
Hmm.
to me at least. I'm a sucker for realism. I'm a sucker for realistic horror, and just knowing stuff like this did in fact happen.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying Barbarian is a true story, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying to think that this likely did or has happened. It's just horrific, and especially as you said at the beginning, having women that you truly care about in your life, it just feels so damning to watch a film like this. And yeah, what do you think about this sequence where we get a little backstory?
Yeah. I mean, it immediately makes me think about the AJ situation. With him raping a uh, uh, a coworker. And it makes me think, because it's obviously set further back. I believe they mentioned Reagan, so like the
Yeah,
80s. So it's obviously shows that in a society where maybe there isn't a whole lot of accountability, maybe AJ would have also been, this
yeah,
monster. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
it truly, I don't know about you, but it also, while making me dislike this guy, making me think he's a monster, it also made me deeply loathe AJ uh,
yeah,
more. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah. It's definitely a horrific scene.
mhm.
And probably one of the harder moments to watch in this film, and it's just really disturbing
Mhm.
watching this. And then on the topic of disturbing, right after we get this, we're pretty much met with that disturbing feeding scene. Um, which
Oh,
I wanted to take a note in case, first of all, um when I watched this, for the first time, I thought I was going to throw up at the feeding scene. It was so disgusting. And then as I researched, I found out it was supposed to be way worse. I don't know if you know this. In the original script, Zach Cregger wanted the mother to baby bird a dead rat into AJ's mouth.
Oh,
Dude, just
that's
oh my
horrible.
god. I literally just feel like the vomit coming up just thinking about it.
That's
Like
so bad.
it's so disgusting. Like it's and it just like that nasty ass bottle with the one fucking hair on it. Just every
Oh,
time, I always have to like do
yo,
this. Watch
yo.
this scene. I'm like, no. That. What do you think about, or what did you and your girlfriend, as you said, because you watched it with her, what did you two think about that scene?
I mean, yeah, horrific. It's horrible. I mean, it's and it immediately makes you think, like, why is she doing this to them? You know, and then Tess says she just wants you to be her baby. But it's, I mean, I guess after hearing what it was supposed to be, I don't. That is insanely bad. But I'd also say the feeding scene already is so horrific. It's horrible. Yeah.
I mean, imagine sitting in the writer's room and just being like, how can we make this already horrible, disgusting scene just that little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But as the feeding scene plays out, so as he's getting breastfed, Tess narrowly escapes the monster with help by the homeless man from earlier, and we'll get back to their sequence in a bit. With the monster now distracted, AJ walks through the tunnels while getting chased by the monster, who mysteriously stops and fades into the darkness as AJ walks into a room. A big question moment right there. Like, why did the monster stop? You know, like we're right now sought out to think like this monster is ruthless, is killing, and wants to hold these people hostage. And so we sit there and I'm just like, why did the monster stop? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's immediately you see the monster stop, and she comes into view just slightly, and then she walks back, and you think, especially with, I feel like the themes of this movie, you think he's not supposed to be there. Whatever is going to be in that room, he is not supposed to go there. Or at least if he was the monster, he's not supposed to go there. You know? And I mean, it's, if, like later revealed, if you are the monster, you don't want to go there.
We find out the true monster is actually in there.
Yeah,
we'll get there shortly.
But yeah, no, it's insane.
Yeah, no, it's for like the first, and there's a couple moments in this film where we actually feel like a little bit of like feel humanity and empathy for this monster.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is like the first turning point where you start to feel it, because AJ finds a mysterious room, forcing an old man who's pretty much dying while laying on a bed. And AJ talks to him, but all the man can do is cough and not respond. But the man points at like a nightstand, to which AJ moves towards him as AJ searches around the room. But what he discovers is a bunch of like home VHS tapes, very lightly here, all titled horrific, misogynistic titles. Like the one he puts in into the TV, I think it's called Gas Station Redhead. AJ watches a tape. Thank God we don't see it. We hear the ending of it, and hear her screams, and AJ turns around and asks, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Calls him a monster, which is ironic because we're initially thinking, and he is. Don't get me wrong, AJ is still absolutely a monster. But for the first point, it's a little funny because AJ's built up to be this monster, and now he's asking somebody, "You're such a you're a monster. What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
As he yells at him and scolds him, the man holds a gun to his head and shoots himself. What did you think about this darkly disturbing sequence?
I mean, yeah, it's, well, because we already know who that old man is, more than likely, when AJ walks into the room. But yeah, I mean, as soon as he learns the things that he's done, you're right. It is deeply ironic that he says, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah,
Because they're while they have done different acts, and while one is of more, I don't want to say of more severity, but it has been done multiple times. You know what I mean? Uh,
yeah,
you're like, you're not so far removed from this yourself. Um, yeah, it immediately is. You just think, I don't know, dude, you're also really bad. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's definitely irony is a good word for it. It's
Hmm.
definitely ironic that somebody who's somewhat following that path is calling somebody out for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, while this all goes down, Tess got a gas station clerk to call the cops and pleaded with the cops, who, as we talked about earlier, brushed her off, shrugged her off as a psycho.
Hmm.
Um, that night, so first of all, the homeless man warns her, like, you got to get the fuck out of here. Like, she comes out at night. Um, that night, as Tess comes to help, the monster barges out of the front door in like a jump scare esque moment.
Hmm.
And Tess rams her car into the monster, seemingly killing it. And then Tess does go downstairs to help AJ, who shoots her like the fuck ass he is.
Yeah.
And it's like, AJ, you can't catch a fucking break, dude. Like, like, and uh as they leave the house, the as they leave the house, the homeless man kind of helps them, and we see the car smoking, but I
Hmm.
like that we don't see the monster. We're meant to think that it is hidden within the smoke.
Hmm.
What did you think about that short little sequence of that nighttime?
Yeah, I mean, deeply effective jump scare with the
Yeah,
it's so effective. And I usually don't enjoy jump scares a lot. I find them to be cheap.
yeah,
But I mean, with the way Zach Cregger builds tension and then he redirects it to different things, I feel like that is a very well earned jump scare.
yeah,
Um, and then, yeah, I mean, she rams it with her car, which, in all intents and purposes, would kill anything else. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yes.
Um, and you're like, oh, she's in safety. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um, and she goes down, yeah, like you said, and then she gets shot
yeah,
by AJ, and you're like, it just could have been, it could have been way better. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, they get helped by the homeless man after they realize that the monster ain't there no more. And
No, yeah.
yeah, it's and then you think, well, when's she gonna pop back up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And uh uh so then that's where we get the homeless man helps them and gives them shelter at a water tower.
Mhm.
Um and where we learn a little backstory about the monster now that we come to find out.
Mhm.
Revealing that she is basically the product of multiple generations of incest.
Mhm.
Um I did make a note just reading some letterbox reviews from my fellow letterbox friends and reading some reviews online. Um, this third act, maybe not even the third act, but this reveal kind of loses people.
Mhm.
I heard a lot of complaint that it felt lazy, which I don't see. To me, I don't see any of the complaints. I think this is the perfect third act for what Zach Cregger was setting up.
Mhm.
And some reviews were even like he ran out of ideas and he had to come up with something quick. And I'm like, no, he was putting down everything from the beginning.
Mhm.
And I don't. I'll ask you. I'm like, what did you think about this review?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't call it lazy. I would definitely say that I would. I guess I didn't write it. I'm not Zach Cregger, but I would say I feel like it was very intentional from the beginning. Um, I feel like it could have been done in a more tasteful sense, perhaps, but with the severity of the movie's topics, it is, I feel, by giving the now monster this monstrous appearance, it is to show the severity that no, she's actually not a monster. It's these average looking guys that are walking about every day. You know what I mean? It's monsters in real life don't look like that. Monsters in real life look like any of us. You know what I mean?
To me, you know, and you know, watching this in 2022 versus watching this in 2025, where my taste in film has grown a lot and I've seen a lot more films, it reminds me a lot of Twin Peaks, where it kind of is like a little bit of the evil that men do. Now, Twin Peaks is more the evil that men do, but this is also pretty heavily on the evil that men do. When you get the creepy guy that kidnaps women and then forces them to have kids and then has incest with them, and it just keeps going on and on, you know, and it's just deep and dark and disturbing, and it shows you that the true monsters aren't even the creatures. It's the people you pass by at the grocery store, at the people you're filling your car's tank up with at the gas station next to. You know, it shows that monsters are hidden in plain sight. They're not what people think a monster is. Monsters are all over the place. A monster might live next door. A monster might even be in your house. I do like that point that you drew up. While the two talk with the homeless man, AJ does some serious self-reflection where he's like, "Oh, I'm such a shitty person." It's almost like when you're breaking up with like a toxic high school boyfriend, and he's just like, "God, I'm so stupid," you know, and stuff. So it seems half-assed, but it also seems kind of wholehearted. Which the monster appears and unfortunately kills the homeless man, because I kind of liked it.
Although be it in kind of a funny scene. I mean, it's very. It happens where he's like, "She can't get in here. I've been living here for years. Okay, she can't." And then she immediately bursts through the wall, and in a quite graphic scene, rips his arm off and beats him with it. It's so insane.
I wrote that note down too. I was like, I don't know if Zach Cregger intended this to be funny, but every time it plays out, I laugh my ass off. Just how he's like, "She can't get in here. I've lived here God knows how many years, and she ain't coming." All of a sudden, the wall just bam, and then his fucking leg gets ripped off and starts beating him to death with it. I'm like, what the fuck? It's. I don't know if it's intentionally hilarious. But I got a good laugh at it. So AJ and Tess, while the homeless man is getting beat to death with his leg, escape to the top of the water tower, and AJ's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" Tess is like, "Your gun, your gun." AJ, like a dipshit, grabs the gun and then drops the fucking gun. And we watch it bounce off the stairs as the monster's running up. So we're like, great, you can't do shit, dude. So as the monster makes it to the roof, after all the self-reflecting that AJ did, he grabs Tess, throws her off the roof, where we see a POV shot of the monster dive down for her, both presumably dead. This was one moment where people thought was lazy, I guess, because they're like, you had that self-reflection from AJ, and then he did this, and I'm like, no, it's pretty on par with him if you watch the movie. Like, you know, and I don't see. What did you think about this little section?
That's not. I don't think it's lazy at all. I mean, it is deeply showing of the person that AJ is. You know, even at a moment of apparent self-reflection, he still chooses to do what would be best for him, what he deems is necessary and good for him. You know what I mean? And it shows you just the kind of the type of person and man that AJ is. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like we all know somebody who, after a moment of deep self-reflection, if they were put in this situation, they would do the exact same thing. And you're like, you're just kind of an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. That's a great point. Is we all kind of know somebody a lot like AJ. Not saying that we know people that did what AJ did, but we all know a lot of people like AJ who are very, I don't know if self-indulgent might be the word, but a little bit self-centered is more so what I was looking for, where they really only care about their self, and then at times in need they might be like, well, I'm such an asshole, but when given it, they're only going to do what's best for them.
Oh yeah.
But AJ does walk down to check on them, revealing Tess is still alive. But as AJ lifts Tess up, the monster stands up and kills him in a satisfying yet gory and goopy way, reaching into his eyeballs and ripping his head. What did you think about like that little? I thought it was so cool how that applesauce like goop dripped down his eyes.
I mean, this is going back to my 4 favorite films. I'm a sucker for practical effects in horror movies. So like The Thing is obviously my favorite horror movie, but seeing that and seeing just such a grotesque way to kill a character, like you said, is satisfying in its own right if you're weirdos like us, I guess. But but no, it's that in itself is a different kind of art that I really appreciate in a film, is just how gross these practical effects can get.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely am a sucker for gross practical effects, and especially if it's a moment like this where it can make me kind of like, oh, but also kind of like, it's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
As that happens, after that happens, I should say, the monster examines Tess's face, saying that her baby is hurt. Where Tess slowly holds the gun up to the monster's head before firing, where as she fires, I'll never be able to hear the song the same way. Be My Baby by the Ronettes plays out as we watch Tess limp away as the sun comes up. Great ending. I mean, beautiful ending. What did you think about probably like that third act, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I guess I could see where it could lose some people. I know my mom watched the movie and she's loved horror for her entire life, and that act kind of lost her. But yeah, I think it was very, very good and very deliberate. And I don't really see the lazy accusations of it. But I would say it beautifully brings the movie to an end.
Yes.
Beautiful in its own weird, kind of right. But yeah, it definitely encapsulates the movie as a whole.
Yeah. Well, this movie came out in 2022, towards, I believe, the fourth quarter of the year, and it absolutely took the internet by storm. And I think, as I had mentioned kind of at the beginning, put Zach Cregger back on the map, so which now he's directed Weapons, another movie that opened up phenomenal reception that Warner Brothers is going to be putting out an Oscar campaign for. So be interesting to see if it gets anything. Probably not, giving that Warner Brothers made Sinners, and I think Sinners is going to be a lot more nominated, but I would like to see something for Weapons nominated. As we know, horror is always a hard one. And now Cregger is going to be directing a Resident Evil movie. That's exciting, and as I said, being a Whitest Kids, fan, not knowing really any of the members personally, but just like feeling proud for them, and feeling proud for Mr. Cregger that, he's now out and he's making these fun popcorn horror movies and he's having a great time, and I think I can't help but feel just a little proud for him.
No, I mean, I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your overall thought about Barbarian?
It's just as fun as it is like, I can't look. You know what I mean? I feel like that really ties the movie together as a whole, because there's so many moments where whether it be the kill of AJ, where you're like, oh my gosh, but you're also kind of like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're like,
Yeah.
it's just, there's so many moments in the film where you're either laughing and then immediately scared, or you're scared and then immediately laughing. Like
Yeah.
he just does such a good job with it.
Absolutely. And I think that's my big thing too, is it blends the gross out, it
Mhm.
blends the tense, it blends the humor, it blends everything that you kind of, at least for me, everything that I kind of look for in a horror, it kind of blends that together, and I love it. I can't really. I think I'd like to. I can always talk about Barbarian.
Oh yeah.
And I think I went. We both went super in depth as to why we like it.
Mhm.
But I think yeah, Barbarian is a strong hit, and so far in the 20s, we have had some strong horror movies. I mean,
Oh yeah.
between this Weapons, just of Cregger's. I mean, we've had The
Mhm.
Substance, we've had Malignant, we've had now Conjuring just wrapped up. I know that started in the teens, but Conjuring
Yeah.
just released their final movie. And
Mhm.
I think the 2020s is becoming a big decade for horror, and I'd love
Oh
to
yeah.
see how this go on throughout. And as a kid, I grew up in a horror family, ever since I was like 9, 10 years old. I think I was 9 years old. I've been helping out with a haunted house in my hometown. And,
Mhm.
being a kid, my dad's a big Michael Myers Halloween fan. I've been watching those since since as long as I can remember, and I think horror has a special place in my heart because, and I love being scared as much as the next guy. And it's not necessarily a comfortability thing of wanting to see people killed, but it's like horror brings like just a sense of comfort to me, and I love being scared. I love being thrilled. I love the adrenaline. I love that anxiety that builds in your gut. But
Mhm.
when you get movies like this that perfectly blend it all together, not only can you respect it as a horror movie, but you respect it as a film and a strong contender as a favorite. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, great points. I mean, you're right. In what is shaping up to be a decade of immensely great horror movies, this one definitely made its mark, and it made it well. You know what I mean? It's in terms of technical speaking, it doesn't reinvent the genre, but it takes a classic, almost setup and turns it into something uniquely its own. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
yeah,
and it it does it. I don't want to say it does it way better than a lot of other things, but it really does. It does itself um, better than a lot of similar setups that I've seen in horror movies.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess I don't have any more points I wanted to add. I kind of threw mine all in the discussion. Did you have any more you wanted to throw out there?
No, I think we covered it all. Yeah, of
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today,
course.
Aiden. I had a wonderful discussion, and I think we brought up some great points and both kind of shared how we're deeply disturbed when it comes to horror.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, I'd love to come on again. This was a great discussion.
Absolutely. Well, here on the Big Screen Banter, we'd always love to have you. But I think that's going to do it for our first episode of the Big Screen Banter. Thank you, Aiden, for joining me today. Um, as always, if there's films you guys want to see us discuss, leave them down in the comments below. I'm always down to watch and review movies. Thank you for joining the Big Screen Banter.